And I say this in presentations, it is so easy for us to report a problem to the industry. We're monitoring trends and we can see where the gaps are. So instead of talking about problems, I want to talk about things that work. I want to identify what are the strategies to fill these gaps, to make it better, and let's go after it.
It's more than just a living, y'all. Hell, it's our way of life. We're the last of the cowboys. Giddy up, gone, boys. 18 wheels on the concrete. It's a slow and dying breed. Rolling like Jesse James. A modern day outlaw game. If you're out here riding with me, come on back and make some noise. We're the last of the cowboys.
Welcome back to Merging Lanes, where we share stories and have conversations with passionate and inspirational people in the trucking industry. And like always, today is going to be a really good one. If you're listening to this, do us a favor, follow us on Spotify, subscribe, and give Merging Lanes a 5-star review on iTunes. And Colson, we haven't talked in like a week or two. What's up?
Man, I'm good, man. I got my espresso here. I'm ready to rock and roll. Everybody makes fun. I may put a little espresso, not like the big fancy espresso machine, that you have to actually grind your own, but the Nespresso brand, the little mini one in my office. And everybody makes fun of me for drinking espresso. And I'm like, what's wrong with little bitty coffees? I don't need the big coffee in the afternoon. I need a little shot of espresso. It's 1,000 degrees in Alabama right now and like 200% humidity. And so why would you want to drink, 18, 32, 75 ounces of coffee on an afternoon? And so, I want my little espresso and it hits the spot, but yet I still take grief for it, but I don't care. I'm pure in my coffee hood.
How many espressos you drink in a day?
Maybe
depends
one
on the
right
day.
when I wake up because I'm a zombie, and then maybe one in the afternoon. But I usually have if you drink like a good cup of coffee, you really just need one. Our guest today, I know because I just spent some time with her in Birmingham. She doesn't drink just one cup of coffee a day. But
I'm right there with her, and I must have the cheap college coffee because I'm drinking like
it's time
5.
to graduate. You gotta commit.
Okay. Well,
if you got to put it in the line item in your budget, you just do it.
Coffee. Coffee.
Coffee.
Okay. And I wanted to kind of just talk through because I've been going a little deep into some podcasting stuff and trying to figure out, hey, how can we make this even better? We're on episode 6. Like we said, hey, we're top 10% now. We're rolling. Next goal is 10 episodes, which will be a big milestone to pass. But what I wanted to do was give a little insight on some of the things that I feel like is doing well with the podcast and some of the things that I feel like we could improve upon. And the first thing is like I feel like we've hit kind of a consistency trying to post every 2 weeks. And what I'm seeing is every time we post a new episode, all of the other episodes previously are growing too, and actually growing faster than the one that we're posting. So it's like, okay, we post one and then people go and are starting to start from the beginning and watching or, listening to all of them. So that's cool. The second thing is I've been posting on LinkedIn, and we just posted the podcast with Craig Fuller from Freight Waves. And we got, from just posting a couple of 2-minute clips, we got like over 5,700 views from those clips, which is like a ton more than just the podcast on its own.
It's the Jimmy Fallon model, man. Okay. He revolutionized the Today Show. He would take, the night before show, and then they'd take just the funny clips. And that was really how they brought it back to life, because people would share those on, and it really took a program that was made for late night and then made it, available to the social media platforms in a way that was consumable. And so they did that really well. And yeah, I could see that. That's great to know, though.
Yeah. And then people love getting to know us too. They want to keep hearing more, now they know you're a big espresso guy now. And so we got to keep sharing a little bit of our personality and give the people what they want. But then the final thing is just, having engaging and cool guests, which we've been trying to keep, set the bar high and keep that moving even higher. And I think today's guest is fits right in line and is very very excited to have Leah on the show. But today, so we're going to be talking to CEO and president of the National Transportation Institute, the host of Radio Dog Trucking Radio, Road Dog Trucking. Oh my gosh. And Leah, on the CB radio, how many people call you Sunshine Girl?
All of them.
Okay, all of them. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Leah.
Appreciate you having me.
Hold on. Before you get going, I mean, I got to say something about Leah, because I've just had the opportunity to work with her on several levels, but spend time with her in my state of Alabama, because she came in and dropped a pretty great presentation at an event we were both at earlier this week, which was just happenstance that we were together this week and we're recording this podcast. But I mean, the one intro, she's just a doer. You're like that. You need to be the sunshine doer, Leah, because if you get an idea, this is like you and Marinara here need to. I mean, y'all are both like ultimate doers. I mean, one idea sparks something, and then it's not like have a conversation about it. It's like you got the LLC and you got the idea and the trademark. I mean, I've never met anybody quite like that. So anyway, the sunshine doer. I'm going to amend your name today.
I'll see if it's available.
What was the conference? What was the conference?
It was a CCJ conference in Alabama, and it was a discussion about driver compensation and how it pertains to recruiting and retention. So basically my jam. Okay,
cool. Awesome. Well, I'm a little jealous I wasn't invited, but it's maybe next time. But what we wanted to start with was, I know you get a bunch of questions on drivers' pay, and, all those types of questions. But, before we get into some of those topics, we want to hear your story. We want to see, tell us the story of how you fell into trucking and, how you and your husband became the owners of NTI.
Okay. I'm going to give you the very short Cliff's Note version. I started as a driver recruiter at a trucking company, and I absolutely loved it. This is back in the days where the phone rang 24/7. We didn't take a break. We didn't take, we picked up lunch and brought it back, constantly taking incoming calls from drivers that were interested in working, and simply had to pitch the company, screen them for their qualifications and background, give them the seal of approval, and bring them to the company. But as a recruiter, I also had to interview them and make the final decision on whether or not to hire them. And remember that a recruiter's compensation package is typically incentive-based, meaning the more you hire, the more you earn. I was not interested in hiring the most drivers. I wanted the drivers that would retire from the company. And so the company said, we think you belong in human resources instead. And I grew in a role in human resources and ended up managing not only recruiting, but driver retention, driver wellness, and anything as it pertains to all employees at all levels, hiring on to the company. I felt that I could do more for the industry than at one company alone. And I approached the owner of NTI and said, I really think that if we took the data that NTI brings in and paired it with strategies to better recruit and retain drivers from hire to retire, that we would really have a very impactful solution for the industry. And so I was hired as a succession plan for the founder. And 5 years later, my husband and I purchased the company after running it. I've been running NTI since 2015. So,
was that, Leah, can I interrupt you there? Was that a plan? I mean, was that, you thought that would happen, or did that just kind of evolve over that amount of time?
It was the plan.
A big decision for you.
No, it was the plan, but it was still a very big decision for the founder. Anyone that creates an amazing idea has a really hard time letting go of it, right? Even if it's going to become something bigger, maybe even something better. The founder of NTI had such a wonderful idea, and together, my husband and I have helped NTI expand into a tool and a service offering and an extension of so many companies that are all over the world, by the way, that employ professional drivers and technicians to help them to provide a rewarding and secure career choice for all of the individuals, but especially for the techs and the drivers.
That's awesome. Wait, all over the world, what's the coolest place that one of your clients is at? You have them outside of the US and Canada?
They employ drivers in North America, but there are some worldwide companies that we support.
That's awesome. Okay, so I think based off of what we've had already, the conversation is, we know you talk about drivers pay. We know NTI deals with data in that I guess arena, but give us the elevator pitch of NTI and what you guys do.
Sure. We provide clients with benchmarking data, but also support so that they can make critical decisions anywhere that professional drivers and technicians are vital to success. We focus on compensation, benefits, perks, programs, best practices, everything that matters to drivers and, again, to technicians. We deliver opportunities for those fleets to grow, to attract additional workers, and then ideally expand in their marketplace with an appropriately compensated, engaged, and retained workforce. The unique aspect about NTI is that we look at the city level job description, trailer type, job type, qualifications and requirements of the individual matched to the job at the location. So we've got national data, and we also have very specific data in your neck of the woods, anywhere across the US and even some locations in Canada.
One thing I think that's really interesting, because having followed NTI, listen to you give presentations on really the data. One of the things that make you personally even more unique is you have the quantitative approach there, but you also have the qualitative approach because you're also the host of Road Dog Trucking. Talk a little bit about how that has connected you. I know you spent a lot of time with drivers over your whole career when you're a recruiter. So not only are you behind the data and looking at the numbers that inform good decisions, you also know the people and the personalities and the culture and the good and the bad and the ugly of it all. Talk a little bit about how, not only your personal experiences, a recruiter spending one-on-one time with drivers. I know you still do that in certain aspects, but you're also talking to drivers all the time, especially on the radio program. How does that inform, from a qualitative standpoint, what you can bring, your perspective on all these issues?
It's actually it's a little bit more challenging than just the data itself and presenting findings, right? Because the individual person has a lot of priorities and needs, and they all vary based on that person, based on their age, based on what type of work they do, based on their own interests, where they're at in their life and in their career. Everyone has different priorities. And so matching those up on an individual basis makes me look even harder at what we're doing at NTI on a global basis. It actually pushes us to work a lot harder to make sure that the message that we're delivering to companies does align with what a driver's expectation would be. And in terms of my work on the radio, that has also challenged me. I think I'm much better at it now. But you and I might agree that I'm somewhat entertaining. But when you're talking to 1 million people as they travel across the country, you have to up your game a little bit and make sure that you're smiling and that you're really enjoying the work and that you're talking about something that they're really interested in. And do you know what drivers really want to talk about? Their paycheck, their job, what they want in their job and in their paycheck, what really aggravates them out on the road, what we could improve as an industry. And so it's really helped what we do here, because we don't survey professional drivers. We collect our data direct from the company that employs a driver or a technician. So, the data is true, from that company based on the type of work that they do. But if a driver's aggravation is, let's say, unpaid, unproductive time, then the survey results that I provide to a company should be related to unpaid, unproductive time so that they can make informed decisions that are critical to the people that they employ.
Yeah, it's funny. I early on in this job, I did a roadside inspection, brake check safety week with our law enforcement officials, and great guys, and really have a great partnership here in our state. But as I was there, I mean, I was talking to the truck drivers, trying to, like, you just gain those types of insights on the human element. I mean, because in my job, I get to visit with a lot of different people in the industry, but I mean, the professional commercial driver is the heartbeat of our industry. So I was really just talking to them about how they're doing, and one or two guys really wanted to tell me, and we had a long conversation, and one of the troopers came up to me afterwards and said, I've been doing this a long time. I learned early on in my career, don't ask a truck driver how they're doing because they're going to tell you. And I was like, well, man, I wanted to know. But that was, I mean, I wasn't doing the brake check inspections literally. I mean, I learned some there, but I know you've had a lot of those conversations in your career. But I mean, you were saying that, but does the data that you're seeing, especially in today's present day environment with the driver shortage that's being talked about all the time, does it align with those, I'll say, anecdotal conversations you're having with drivers online and offline, as far as what the biggest concerns are for drivers or companies that employ drivers?
Well, so do companies' strategies and where their pay increases are being attributed, do they align with what's important to drivers? Not always, but sometimes. You heard at a conference that we both recently attended that that drivers don't really get motivated by incentive programs where the bulk of the pay is tied to the incentive, or if the incentive is confusing or difficult to achieve, then a driver isn't going to work that much harder in order to achieve it. They see it as unattainable. It's the ceiling, cannot be reached. So certainly some companies have aligned their strategy in this driver shortage market to remove some of the incentive and put it in the base pay, or to reduce the portion of the paycheck so that the incentive aligns properly, and it's a smaller portion of the pay outcomes. But ultimately, in terms of driver aggravation, they really complained the most about detention, layover, maintenance associated, all of which I lump into one as unpaid, unproductive time. Some of them are paid, they're just not paid well, right? And it's a net loss to the driver. And also, though, to things that are really troublesome to them out on the road, parking, to time that's attributed to aggravations that are outside of their control, congestion, weather delays, things like that. Those are certainly priorities. And then lastly, I would add that drivers really see the gap in how they're paid. So if they're paid by the mile, they're not all paid for every mile that they drive. And so that's another opportunity for companies to really align with the goals of a driver.
Gotcha. Yeah. And, I know I've heard you, say before that, from a driver's perspective, their paycheck's not always their number one priority. And I think, when I've seen companies, trying to recruit drivers, sometimes I feel like it's a rat race of who's got the highest pay. Oh, we paid this much, this many cents per mile. And it's just kind of this company goes up, this company goes up. And, I guess outside of compensation, what are some of those areas that, from a benefits standpoint, or, even from a culture standpoint, could a company do to try to help with recruiting and retention?
The biggest thing that a company should do is take care of their own people and share how they do that, not in a recruiting pitch, but to their own people. I'm going to talk to my own people about what they did really well. I'm going to celebrate how they did it, how I'm rewarding them, and I'm going to do that publicly. And then other people are going to say, well, I want to be a part of that. That's the easiest way to get interest in a company. In an ad, don't market that you're hiring, but instead market that you just had this many drivers get this type of a bonus for this thing. And by the way, it should be 90% of our drivers got their productivity incentive last month. Here's the simulated pot of money that they cashed at the end of the month or something like that. You get it. Obviously I'm not in marketing, but rewarding your own people is the best way to attract more. So I say, reflect what you admire and you'll attract what you reflect. So if you are reflecting an aging workforce that all look the same, that don't look happy, that don't look like your own drivers, and then your new recruit comes in and nothing looks like the stock images that were in your ads, and they don't line up with, the culture doesn't line up with what you advertise, there's going to be a gap there. So the best thing to do is to celebrate your own people and really put out what you're doing there for their wins and for their next achievements, how their career path is aligned within your company, and you'll attract more people to join you.
Oh, I mean, so I'm in all the Facebook groups with all the truck drivers, and you just go to any post and it's just nonstop negativity about their company. And so, I mean, it's really sad, right? But if you have this driver that is getting rewarded, getting positive feedback from their company, it's the black sheep when they post on it. No, I love my company. And everyone's like, oh, wait a second, I need to check this company out. So, I mean, I completely agree with you. And, I think that you have, when I look at companies, it's like, we're family owned, we have the best pay, or, we're the safest fleet on the road. If you owned a trucking company, would you kind of align yourself or, brand yourself to try to stick out from the crowd?
I would create and articulate a career path for all roles in my company and make it clear that there are opportunities for everyone. Not every driver sees themselves in another role, but they could expand on the role that they have in the driver's seat, and they could train, they could team, they could get more endorsements, they could become higher qualified and raise their pay, doing all of those things while making the company stronger and better along the way. That's not alone, by the way. We have our best resources for new hires, our driver referrals, and our own drivers are our best. They're our best ambassadors and they're our best recruiters, but they need to be happy and well cared for in order to talk about those things. And so we can actually train them to do that, right? And they can reap the reward, not just by way of an incentive, but as part of their pay package. So, identifying that career path for new drivers so that they see what the opportunities are. New entrants, as they come in, they're inexperienced, they're not well compensated. The best companies that retain their students long-term elevate their pay rapidly throughout that first year, so rapidly and frequently, so that as the driver continues to get more experience, they're becoming more attractive to other companies that don't hire new entrants, right? So let's continue to increase their pay, reminding them why they chose us, why they loved it here, what their friends like about it, why they should continue to stay with us. So I would continue to sell the job to my people over and over again, making sure they understand their pay package, their benefits, everything that they can do and that they have done at our company, and just to continue to identify all of the opportunities so that they can continue to grow. The other thing that's really key is just that in summary of all of those things I just mentioned, that's engagement. Some people see engagement as surveying or getting your opinion one time and then making a decision about it. Engagement is regularly communicating with your people. It's sharing news and information. It's sharing wins and losses, followed by opportunities to make up for those losses. It's celebrating successes internally first, reminding our team members again what they love about us and why they should stay. And the other thing is, you mentioned pages or groups for drivers. Creating communities within your own company where people can collaborate, where they can give their feedback, where they can come up with new ideas, but also where they can commune with other people like them. Your Gen Z folks might not actually be able to relate to the older drivers. Your Gen X drivers can probably mentor some of your younger drivers and work with your baby boomers. Ultimately, though, if you've got women in your company, they need to be supported and they need to feel a community. Your minorities need to feel their community and be supported. So I would create groups and make those things available and really highlight all of the successes of each of them. And by successes, I don't just mean at work. I mean, what's important to you and how can we recognize you?
Yeah, I mean, because I think, trucking is an interesting, I guess, section or job and a job, lifestyle that they live, because in other industries, like they talk about all the time, how many friends does Leah have at the office? And that's a huge component of retention, right? If you've got a friend that you go to the office and hang out with and go have lunch with every day, that's huge. Like that will help you, during the bad times and, not be like, screw this job, I'm done for it. Right. But with trucking, it's kind of hard if you don't have that community to have your drivers make friends, because when one's driving to Florida, the next one's driving to California, right? And it's just tough. They don't see each other. So figuring out a way and leveraging the internet is an awesome way to build that community. I think that's a great idea.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so, I think the other, one of the better, when I was researching this, I was listening to all of your great talks and the content you put out there. And one of the metaphors that I heard on retention and recruiting that I'd never heard before, but I thought it was great, was, the trucking companies, and when they're trying to recruit and retain drivers, it's like dating. Could you talk on that metaphor and, tell everyone about that?
Well, it's similar to what I was saying earlier about regularly reminding your people why they chose you, what they liked about you, why they should stay, why your friends stay with the company. You woo them in with a really nice picture, right? They click on it because they like the picture, but then they need to want to continue the conversation. That first conversation needs to be engaging, and we need to sound happy to be at work, which is why our recruiting team needs to really be engaged with what's happening at the company, what's wonderful about the company, why they chose their job at the company, and why they continue to stay. So, salespeople need enrichment, they need motivation, and it can't only be financial, just like a driver doesn't only choose a company based on their financial need. It's often the trigger, right? But it isn't the only thing that's important to them, especially as drivers get older. So that regular engagement is a big piece of that dating. And Mark, you're 1 year in on your marriage, right?
Yeah.
And a friend of mine just got married, and I asked him how it was going, and it's new and yet it's not, because they've been together. And I said, you treat her like a newlywed, dude. Continue to treat her like the bride that she is. And he goes, that's what I'll do. I'll do that. I'm going to go do that. And I said, well, let's end it there. Just continue to treat her like that bride. Well, we have to treat our people, whether they're drivers or techs or our staff at NTI, if they're the folks at the Alabama Trucking Association, we have to continue to court our people so that they really feel happy to be at work.
I completely agree. And I think it's not a get them in and then the relationship ends. It has to continue to develop. And that means some push and shove in both directions and helping them grow. And they'll, in the meantime, help your business grow and your company grow too.
Work isn't all sunshine and rainbows though, right? And it's not all easy and it's not always going to be fun. I'm not afraid of the grind, but that doesn't mean that every one of my team members is willing to grind like I do. And so it's not just about, what you love about us or what we're doing for you. It's also about supporting their goals. And we use technology in the industry to be safer, and that's really important. But we also have to look at how technology can support our drivers' goals, ease hardship in their day, and maybe do less of the micromanaging. There's a lot of opportunity for us to better communicate, engage, measure, give feedback, et cetera, with that technology rather than using it for babysitting. And, those aren't my words, those are driver feedback. So, looking at those opportunities. And the other thing is that we have to nurture and take care of relationships for the long term. I don't think I'm going to be telling you a secret if I say that the average driver in the industry is in their late 50s. The average new entrant is in their late 30s. And that means that our workforce continues to age. And that with age comes what?
Wisdom, responsibility,
health problems.
Okay. Health problems. There you go. That's I didn't know where you were going.
Good
with
answer,
that.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So that said, their health is tied to their way of life by a DOT physical, and anything that we can do to put some more pep in their step. It isn't just in compliments and in rewards and making sure that they see the sunshine out on their shoulder and have it in their ear by listening to Road Dog Trucking Radio. It means that we're also providing them with opportunities to be supported for good health decisions, to get out of the truck and have a life that they can share with people that are important to them, where they're not so exhausted that they're just doing nothing, but that they're actually finding some ways to have activity in their life, to balance diet, to know why they need that, to look at opportunities as it pertains to all of the factors that take them out of our industry: smoking cessation, hypertension, diabetes, heart disease, metabolic syndrome. I mean, I'm telling you things that but all of our folks need ongoing engagement as it pertains to the long-term nurturing of our relationship. And in this job, safety needs to start including health, not just their performance behind the wheel.
You're preaching to the choir over here. I completely agree.
There.
I know. And, I think I look at some of those stuff and, I think health is one of those categories. I think there are other categories out there, but I think if you can provide drivers with those resources, those benefits or programs, it shows them that you're thinking about them outside of them getting from point A to point B too. And I think it just helps further develop that relationship, like you're saying. And, I did want to ask you, because we've asked a lot of different people from over, at different aspects of the trucking industry. And I think you're in a unique spot because you talk to a lot of drivers. You also talk to a lot of industry and companies. And, you mentioned the older workforce, and I'd love to hear, your thoughts on why you think, the Gen Z, the millennials are, not coming into the industry, and what things need to be shifted, or what are some things, I know there's a lot of things that need to be shifted, that you think will help the younger generations come in.
Well, really easy factor would be when we start recruiting. The average age of a professional driver continues to climb because we have a limit on when they can enter the industry. And there's a couple of components there. One is the Drive Safe Act, which now will, ideally is going to move forward. However, until then, a driver is limited to not cross state lines until the age of 21. And so what happens in real life at a trucking company is that until folks are 21 years old, they don't see a need to market what they do, to celebrate the opportunities, to share a career path or create career path within the company until that person is of the age of 21. Well, they've already been in the workforce, or they're on an education path that takes them away from our industry. And so we've missed that. So trucking is already a second, third, or fourth career choice for the individuals in the industry. And by the way, that's if we're lucky. We could end up being a last resort job. And we actually see that a lot of times in the response from drivers. So we have to start younger, and that comes from industry, right? It comes from companies talking to their community, serving their community, being in parades. I was at a 4th of July parade, and there was only one semi in the parade. Well, guess how many there's going to be next year?
0?
More than one, Mark.
Oh, 2.
More than one.
I'm over 2. I suck.
Do you
I
know
suck at
why?
this.
Do you know why?
You didn't study for the test.
No, I
Yeah.
didn't study for the test.
Do you know why there's going to be more than one? Because as Mark Colson said, I'm a doer. It doesn't work for me that we're not promoting trucking in an area of the country where trucking is huge. This in the state of Minnesota, there's a lot of trucking. We should have semis lined up and down the street in every parade. So in any event, we have to start promoting within our community and serving our community, sharing the career path and the opportunities, and it starts to plant seeds. But until those opportunities are available at those companies from the age of 18 and up, they're not going to see them as an opportunity. The other thing is that we study demographics at NTI within the industry, and within our workforce right now, we've got 4 generations of drivers that are operating. Of course, the smallest volume amount would be in Gen Z, mostly because they weren't really available to us until a couple of years ago. But each generation that we have working communicates differently, has different needs and different priorities. And one of the things in terms of compensation that's very interesting about some of the groups that we need to attract more of, women and younger drivers, they are highly risk averse in terms of the job and in terms of the paycheck, meaning we have, by way of an activity-based paycheck, a very volatile pay. We could have a really high week this week and a much lower week next week based on factors that are completely out of the driver's control. And so those are not sustainable conditions for young people or for women. And until we have more opportunities to stabilize some of those factors, I think that will continue to be less attractive. The last thing would be that we don't talk about technology enough. Autonomous vehicles is confusing and cool at the same time. And we don't share the true timeline, probably because we don't know. But we don't share the timeline of what that looks like for drivers in the short term and the long term as an industry consistently. And so it leaves a lot of room for questions.
That ironically, that risk aversion, I know we've talked a lot about this, but for actually, if especially for female drivers, once they get in the industry, it's a positive thing because they statistically are safer drivers than men. No offense against the guys out there. I'm a guy. But yeah, that's a huge problem. But now I'm inspired. In Clanton, Alabama, where I'm from, Chilton County, which anybody familiar with that area knows, that's where they grow peaches in our state. That's where I'm from. I grew up changing truck tires, and they have the peach parade every summer, and it's part of this coronation and culmination up to the peach pageant, which is young women who go to their pageant and they celebrate the Peach Queens, and that was just like a statewide thing. But now I haven't been in several years, a number of years, but I have now taken it as a personal challenge to have a truck in the next Peach Parade in Chilton County and Clanton, Alabama. So I'm on it, Leah. I've taken this as a personal challenge. My people back in Clanton, this is happening.
You and me both.
This is happening. One will be a win, but if I can get more than one, that's like a better win, I guess. Right?
Yes, I got that one right.
I want to see more than one. So one is the minimum.
Well,
you'll have to come to the Peach Parade.
You don't strike me as the kind of guy who shows up to work to do the minimum.
No, none of us are.
That's right.
Leah, you mentioned kind of the marketing it and getting the awareness out there. And, last podcast we had with Dave and Lindsay from Next Gen. And I know you're a part of that. And, when I was, I see you all over the place. You've got a foot all over the place in the industry. And, I guess one question that I had was, from someone who is doing it and is a true industry advocate, if you were going to give advice to someone who was wanting to become or grow into that role, what would you, what advice would you give someone who wants to become more of an industry advocate?
Well, I mentor women in the industry, and I always in a mentoring session tell them right away before we even get started, you're now all in a new network together. And so you have to exchange information and build your network. Networking is really important in trucking because we're a close-knit industry. We're a huge industry across the US, but very specialized, and we tend to cross paths and see each other frequently, just like you just said. So networking is really important. That's number one. The other thing in terms for me and my personal success and passions alike is that I've said yes to every opportunity. As I was building my career, probably less so now, though it's really hard for me to say no. And that's why you see me in a lot of places. But as I was growing, I said yes to every opportunity that came my way. We're looking at you for this promotion. Are you interested in it? What would you do with it? And I'd create a whole plan for it and go after it. I definitely think saying yes as you're growing is really important. The other thing, though, is that you should really go after the areas that you care about. Figure out what you are passionate about, and it comes through in your work. So that what's reflected is how much you love what you do, not just how hard you work. I felt like I was a minority as a female leader in the industry. So I joined Women in Trucking Association. They asked me to be a leader in the association, and I now lead others to do the same while identifying opportunities throughout the industry for other people to get involved. I'm now doing that with the Next Generation in Trucking Association. We've identified a problem, and it's really easy. And I say this in presentations, it is so easy for us to report a problem to the industry. We're monitoring trends, and we can see where the gaps are. So instead of talking about problems, I want to talk about things that work. I want to identify what are the strategies to fill these gaps, to make it better, and let's go after it. And I got to tell you, I'm not always the majority, right? Not everyone actually wants to fix a problem. Not everyone is looking for a long-term sustainable solution. Have you encountered that yet, Mark, as it pertains to wellness? Not everyone is willing to tie their culture to what they say in their marketing campaign. They don't know how. It's not that they don't want to. It's really hard. We operate in trucking on margins that are fractions of pennies. Okay. So trucking company executives have to really choose where they align their interests, where they align their budget, and their biggest priority is going to be in their people always, right? What are the top expenses at a company? Their people and their equipment. And so it's, our great challenge, me with regard to compensation, benefits, overall offerings, you with regard to wellness, you have to help them to see what the total reward is, what the total need is. And so it's really important to be able to identify what the unique culture is with each unique organization that you support, and then help them find the opportunities that they have. We like to identify opportunities and then go after them. And so I own my company. I can choose what to do with the profits of our company. And my husband and I contribute thousands of dollars instead of to ourselves. We support organizations that support professional truck drivers, nonprofit organizations that really, truly just give of themselves to support professional drivers, because professional drivers are what have shaped our career. Our entire career has been in support of the trucking industry. So that's what we support personally. And then added to that, just side note, it's not trucking related, but we also support efforts for foster care because we're foster parents, and those are important to us. So my point is, I choose things that I'm really passionate about because I'll work harder for them. They'll get more of my energy. They're going to get the support of my team and of my peers. And without going out and saying, I want to be an influencer, I simply want to encourage the people that I love and the people that are around me and in my circle to want to do the same, to really want to support their people, to want to help grow organizations and outcomes in the trucking industry that make it better for our people and in the long term, not just tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, mission driven, right? Where are you passionate? Where's your mission? And that's going to take, I feel like that takes me further than I need to make this amount of money. And that wakes me up.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the work of you and your husband being foster parents. And his name is Mark too, right?
Yes, I'm surrounded. I am surrounded.
But yeah, well, you and I've made that connection, and I grew up and around that. My mom is a lifetime social worker, and being around foster families and foster children, and I'm actually involved in an organization called Embrace Alabama Kids, which is formerly known as the United Methodist Children's Home, and that's their sole purpose, is to provide for kids who need that level of support up to foster care. And so the fact that you and your husband in your professional career have the capacity and ability to provide that type of love is amazing. So it speaks not only to the work that you do in the industry, but also your heart and how you impact people's lives. So thank you for sharing that with folks. And really awesome today. This has been great, man. This has been great, Leah. And to so many Marks out there, it's unbelievable.
Leah, when are you on the radio? If someone wants to go check out your show.
The first Thursday of every month is Payday with Leah Shaver on Road Dog Live, which is from 4 to 7 p.m. Eastern time. And then I fill in and host Road Dog Live when Casey Phillips is out. It happens that he's out on Friday the 13th, so I'm covering that show. I'm guessing our podcast will drop after that. In which case I typically cover around the holidays, so I'll probably be on again around Labor Day, but otherwise it's the first Thursday of every month is the sure date.
Awesome. Well, Leah, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for listening.
It's more than just a living, y'all. Hell, it's our way of life. We're the last of the cowboys to giddy up gone, boys. 18 wheels on the concrete, it's a slow and dying breed, rolling like Jesse James, a modern day outlaw game. If you're out here riding with me, come on back and make some noise. We're the last of the cowboys.